Exposed, how a poor farmer's life-changing love inspired a millionaire to redefine fertility. On a sweltering August afternoon in rural Ohio, Sam plowed the earth with calloused hands, every muscle straining against years of relentless labor. Sweat trickled down his brow, but he kept pushing forward. To many in the town, he was just a farmer, a man standing in faded overalls, dirt under his nails, tending to a patch of land that had belonged to his family for generations. Yet, to him, this land was a treasure, it was his legacy. It fed his community, fueled his spirit, and was a constant reminder of hard work and family. As whispers about him floated through town, doubts about his worthiness and self-pity dripped from their tongues. An unlikely connection awaited discovery just on the other side of the farm. Emily, a nurse from the neighboring town, arrived with a spark that lit up even the darkest corners of Sam's world. They crossed paths in the local diner, where the summer sun beamed through the windows and laughter danced in the air over sweet iced tea. They talked about dreams long buried and aspirations waiting to bloom. Their laughter melted away the bitterness that had wrapped around Sam's heart, and in her eyes, he saw a future filled with hope. But as their love blossomed amid laughter and stolen glances, the shadows returned. Emily's wealthy family never approved of Sam, they pointed fingers and curled lips at the mention of his humble roots. Just a farmer, they sneered, dismissing the very essence of who he was. More than once, Sam had felt the icy grip of judgment as he overheard stinging remarks that forced his head to hang low. It didn't matter how hard he worked or how much he loved Emily, they only saw the dirt beneath his nails. One day, like an uninvited guest at an open door, news of a new fertility clinic opening nearby sent waves of despair crashing through Sam's heart. He had always harbored deep family pain, knowing the history of infertility that shadowed his lineage. Would he ever carry on the family name? The clinic promised cures, yet Sam couldn't shake off the realization that wealth and status would not erase the struggles of those like him. What good was a fortune if it was steeped in hardship? Just as he started to wrestle with his feelings of inadequacy and despair, Emily experienced a sudden upheaval. A health crisis struck her family like a thunderbolt, shattering the fragile happiness they had built together. The weight of pride and prejudice bore down heavily, leading to a heartbreaking separation. Sam felt utterly lost, brought crashing down by the colliding forces of love and familial expectation. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Challenged by the injustices of economic inequality around him, Sam became a warrior against the very system that had belittled him. He rallied his community to stand strong against the clinic that sought to exploit desperation. In townsfolk, he found purpose. Together, their voices echoed against corruption. As Sam faced the complexities of wealth and worth, a revelation stirred within him, igniting a fire to challenge not only the clinic but also the societal norms that bound love to class. But just as the horizon began to illuminate with change, an unexpected twist unveiled itself. The very man behind the clinic bore a surprising connection to Sam's life, a truth that would intertwine their fates. In the throes of battling prejudice, Sam faced the most profound question of all: could true love rival the societal constructs that sought to keep them apart? Would he and Emily's paths cross again, or were they forever lost in the tumult of expectations? Sam stood at the edge of his fields, the sun dipping low behind the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He had poured his heart into the land, but standing there, he felt emptiness creep in. Winning over his community against the fertility clinic had become a new passion, yet the victory he fought for seemed bittersweet without Emily beside him. Her absence left a gaping hole in his heart, one that no rallying cry could fill. As the days turned into weeks, whispers of the clinic's progress flooded the town. They had begun accepting patients, touting miraculous success stories while ignoring the heartbreak and suffering of those left in the shadows. Each story was a reminder of what he and Emily once dreamed of: a family, laughter, and the simple joys of life together. Sam would not allow that dream to die. He rallied more townsfolk, gathering them every Sunday at the old barn where they once came for dances, now transformed into a hub of resistance. One evening, as the last light flickered out and people began to leave, an unexpected figure stepped through the barn doors. Lucas, the man behind the clinic. Sam's heart pounded in his chest. Here was the living embodiment of all his fears and frustrations. Lucas had never belonged in their town, cloaked in the arrogance of wealth while looking down on Sam as if he were dirt. But today, that arrogance seemed to falter as he stepped towards them, sheepishly asking to speak. "You've all been given a voice where I thought you had none," Lucas began, and Sam clenched his fists. "But I'm here because I want to understand why you oppose us." The challenge hung thick in the air, threatening to shatter the unity they had built. "We stand for those who can't speak up, who feel they need money to be whole," Sam asserted, heart racing. His words spilled out like the last drops of rain during a long drought. "You might have the resources, but what you don't have are the hearts of this community." Lucas's demeanor shifted from confrontational to contemplative. He glanced around at the faces in the barn. Their skepticism was palpable. "I know I've made mistakes," he said quietly, grounding his words in an unexpected vulnerability. "Maybe I can help not as an enemy, but as an ally. We could do something meaningful together." Sam's heartbeat quickened, but he had no intention of lowering his guard. Trust came slowly in these parts, and Lucas needed to prove he was more than just a shrewd businessman. "What do you propose?" Sam responded, his voice steady. Lucas took a deep breath. "Let us create a community scholarship for those who truly need help but can't afford it. A way to help without exploitation." The sage suggestion hung like a fragile thread, the outcome uncertain. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd as faces turned to one another, uncertain of the way forward. Sam felt a glimmer of hope battle with skepticism. Might this be the first step toward bridging the chasm? He thought of Emily, of the love that had been stifled by difference, and wondered if they could finally turn a new perspective into something meaningful. Yet as the discussion progressed, something tugged at the back of his mind. What were Lucas's true intentions? Could he be trusted? Just as the group began contemplating the possibilities, an agonizing scream pierced the stillness of the Ohio night. Panic coursed through the room as everyone spun toward the source of the sound. Sam's heart dropped into his stomach. What had happened? In an instant, everything they had built could come crashing down. The night had turned ominous, and answers felt painfully out of reach. Would they be able to weather this storm, or would it unravel everything once more? A frozen hush fell over the barn. Every head turned, expectant and anxious, as dread wove itself around their hearts. Sam's gut twisted. He could feel the blood rushing in his ears, drowning out the murmurs of the crowd around him. Who was that? Someone whispered in panic. Sam's mind raced. An argument? An accident? The urge to bolt towards the sound seized him, but he forced himself to remain still. He had to be the rock for them now. If he faltered, what would happen to the fragile unity they'd built? "Let me go," Lucas said, his voice low yet firm. He made his way through the group, moving with a purpose that stole Sam's breath. "Wait!" Sam called after him. He wasn't ready to let his distrust slip just yet. What if this was all a ruse? But Lucas pushed forward, driven by something deeper than fear. The blink of uncertainty played across Sam's face. Could Lucas really be an ally? Did he genuinely care? He felt torn, but he followed, a heartbeat behind. They stepped outside into the cool night, the contrast sharp against the warmth of the barn just moments before. The scream cut through the air again, and Sam's heart dropped. "This way!" Lucas shouted, barreling past the rows of corn towards a nearby cluster of trees. As they drew closer, the world around them came alive with flickers of light and the sounds of shuffling. A small group had formed, a soft glow from vehicle headlights illuminating the chaos. Shadows danced amid the flickering edge, and tension thickened the air. When they arrived, Sam's heart plummeted. A fallen figure lay sprawled on the ground, tangled in weeds. Anna, the town's school teacher, looked pale against the backdrop of dark soil. Her eyes fluttered as panic rose in her throat. What happened? Lucas asked, kneeling beside her. The bravado he had displayed moments before seemed to drain from him, replaced by genuine concern. She just collapsed. I swear she was fine just moments ago. A voice shouted among the onlookers. As Sam crouched beside Anna, brushing her sweaty hair from her forehead, he felt a rush of helplessness. She had been so active in the community, fiercely rallying against the clinic with him. The uncertainty gripped him like a vice. Anna, can you hear me? He pleaded, his voice breaking. He felt utterly small against the enormity of what this could mean. Slowly she blinked, her gaze searching, but remained silent. Someone call for help. Sam barked, desperation creeping into his tone. A few people scrambled off to find a phone, leaving him alone with Lucas, who remained focused at Anna's side, pressing her pulse gently. For the first time since he'd known Lucas, Sam felt a reluctant admiration stir within him. Maybe the man was genuinely concerned. It was hard to grasp how much the night had shifted his opinion. Maybe without warning, Anna's eyes fluttered open wide. The clinic, she gasped, her breath shallow. They're experimenting on the. Shoo, you need to rest, Sam soothed, trying to calm the storm brewing inside her. He shot Lucas a glance, their unspoken doubts colliding in a moment of vulnerability. What had Anna seen? Just then, sirens wailed in the distance, their sound growing closer. Sam's heart pounded painfully in his chest. They needed answers, but would the truth bring light or expose deeper shadows? As the ambulance lights began to reflect off the trees, Anna's eyes locked onto Sam, and he felt the weight of her gaze. Don't let them. Then her voice faded, that thread of hope dangling ever so delicately. If they lost her, could they lose everything they fought for? Sam's mind raced, desperately searching for solutions, with the flashing lights illuminating a new reality. He understood. This was just the beginning of a storm. Ties were about to be tested, as trust spun on a razor's edge. Would they find the truth before the darkness consumed them all? The blaring sirens sliced through the night, a stark reminder of the urgency that pulsed around them. Sam felt frozen, the gravity of Anna's words weighing down like a lead blanket. She was the community's heart. Without her, what would become of them all? The crowd pressed in, faces shadowed by concern, each swivel of eyes revealing their anxiety. Stay with us, Anna, Lucas urged, his hand deftly lifting her head slightly as he searched her face for clarity. There was an unsettling calm wrapped around him, a careful control that seemed at odds with the chaos. Sam swallowed hard, torn between instinctive distrust and the undeniable care Lucas was showing. Why would they experiment on people? Sam whispered, mostly to himself. The question hung heavy in the air like the humidity that clung to their skin. Was it really possible? I saw them, Anna rasped, her voice barely above a whisper. People, they weren't just sick. They were changing. Her eyes fluttered, struggling to stay focused. Sam gripped her hand tighter. He needed her to stay present. The ambulance pulled closer, its lights casting an eerie glow over the gathering, exposing the worry etched on every face. He could see his neighbors, the people he had spent years looking out for, their eyes reflecting fear and confusion. It made his heart ache, an unmistakable pang of urgency filling him. Anna, please, what do you mean? Sam pressed, ignoring the anxiety bubbling in him. They took my sister, Anna stammered, breathing heavily. They offered her treatment. Said it was for her health, but... She paused, wincing as if the weight of her memory was too much. She wasn't herself anymore. Lucas exchanged a quick glance with Sam. Confusion and bewilderment tangled in the tight space between them, but urgency prevailed. There was no questioning the gravity of Anna's revelations. Sam knew they had to act not just for her, but for all they had fought against. The ambulance door swung open, and two paramedics rushed to Anna's side as if she were the only thing that mattered in that moment. "Please," Sam said, looking down at her radiant face now pale with distress. "You're going to be okay. Just hold on." With the sirens echoing nearby, Lucas pulled Sam aside. "We need to find out more. If what she said is true, this goes deeper than we thought. Are you suggesting we go to the clinic?" Sam's eyes widened as panic flared in his chest. "You get caught there. We've got to know, Sam." "For her and everyone else," Lucas replied, his tone stripping any hesitance away. "We need to be brave." Sam nodded slowly, though doubt twirled in his heart. How could they trust each other enough to put their lives in danger for this? As the medical team worked, he felt an unfamiliar kinship forming with Lucas, a frightening bond that was born from pain and uncertainty. Maybe, just maybe, he would have to step into the very darkness he'd been trying to avoid. That a low murmur broke through as people began to ask questions. The crowd hadn't gone away, they were just waiting, wanting answers too. Sam turned back, his heart racing as he scanned the anxious faces. They were all counting on him. With a deep breath, he felt his resolve harden, emotions swirling within him. No longer could they hide. They were on the brink of something monumental, and their next move was crucial. "Let us do it," Sam said, the decision reverberating in the stillness. "But we need a plan. We do this together." As they turned to face the gathering, a sudden voice rang out, breaking the tension. "Wait. What about Anna?" a woman cried, and all eyes turned back. Sam's heart raced again, panic flooding back. Was Anna's fate set with her warnings, or could they still change everything? With whispers escalating around them, Sam realized, this was a fight not just for answers, but for survival. And they were just getting started. What would they uncover inside the clinic? The moon hung low in the sky, casting eerie shadows that danced across the faces of the crowd. There was a charged energy in the air, a mix of fear and determination that buzzed like electricity. Sam took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. The clinic was a place shrouded in dark whispers, and now it beckoned them with an ominous allure. "Listen up," he called out, raising his voice above the low hum of murmurs. "We can't let Anna's warning go in vain. We need a plan. We need to understand what's happening there." Lucas stepped closer, peering into the crowd with conviction. "We look for answers, but we have to be smart. We don't just rush in blindly." The crowd shifted, uncertainty creeping in as people exchanged uneasy glances. They had trusted the clinic, and now it felt like a knife in the gut to think it could betray them. "What do we even know?" a man called from the back. "If they've been doing this, whatever it is, we could be walking into a trap." "We can't be afraid to take a stand," Sam replied, struggling to keep his voice steady. "This community needs a heart. And Anna's not just a story, she's a reminder that we have to protect each other." A murmur of agreement echoed back, bolstering his spirits. He caught sight of an older woman at the edge of the crowd. She raised her hand, her voice trembling. "My son went there last month, he hasn't been the same since." That single declaration felt like a rock thrown into a still pond, rippling outward and merging all of their fears. Sam felt the heaviness settle in his chest. The fight was no longer about Anna alone, it was for everyone affected. They needed to know the truth, despite the rising tide of dread. "Who wants to come with us?" Lucas asked, glancing at Sam. "We need people to split into groups, keep lookout, and gather intel." Hands began to rise hesitantly, then more confidently, a testament to their spirit. Sam's heart soared with hope. They were banding together, refusing to be mere bystanders in their own lives anymore. "Right," he said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "We'll go at dawn. It's the cover of darkness that gives us an edge, but the light will expose the truth." As they planned, uneasy laughter broke through, a feeble attempt to mask their concern. "I just hope we don't cross paths with any creepy lab coats," someone joked, lightening the moment. Just then, the thrilling sound of a helicopter overhead turned the lightness to anxiety. They all instinctively looked to the sky, hearts pounding, anticipation curling like smoke around them. "If they're watching us," Lucas muttered, "then we need to move quick." "Does everyone know their role?" Sam asked, checking faces he could see, searching for resolve. Nods came back, and for a moment, he felt them all together connected in a shared mission. But underneath the bravado, doubt swirled. What awaited them at the clinic? Would they emerge unscathed, or would they find something darker? As the crowd began to disperse, a heavy feeling settled in Sam's gut. He leaned closer to Lucas. "What if this goes wrong? What if we're leading everyone into danger?" Lucas met his gaze, intensity burning in his eyes. "Then we do what we have to. We fight for the truth." They exchanged a look, a silent agreement swelling between them. It was a decision that had weight, the kind that could change everything. As night crept deeper, whispering secrets, Sam heard the faint footfalls of his neighbors retreating. Tomorrow would bring clarity or chaos. He had never felt both so exhilarated and terrified. With the shadows deepening around him, one question hung in the air: could they handle whatever lay at the clinic, or would the truth be too much for even them to bear? The uncertainty loomed, as did the promise of dawn. What awaited them in that sterile building, hidden away from the world? The break of dawn painted the sky in soft hues of orange and pink. Sam felt the chill in the air settle on his skin like a reminder of the night's fears still lurking. He rubbed his hands together, trying to summon warmth and gather courage. This was at the moment they had been gearing up for. He glanced around at the small group gathered near the edge of town, their faces illuminated by the rising sun. Lucas stood by his side, his jaw set with determination. They had a plan, but in the stillness of morning, doubt began to whisper again. Was it too late to turn back? "All right, remember the roles," Sam called, raising his voice. "We move as a team, stay quiet, and watch each other's backs. Gather any evidence you can find, but don't confront anyone unless we have to." A young woman named Clara, with bright eyes and a fierce spirit, stepped forward. "What if we find something worse? What if we see something we can't unsee?" The gravity of her words hit harder than any he anticipated. It was not just about their safety, it was about what they might discover. The thought of a truth so dark it might unravel everything made his heart race. "Then we deal with it," Lucas replied, his voice steady but gentle. "There are too many of us here to go down without a fight." With hesitant nods, they took a moment to breathe, filling their lungs with determination. They needed to push past the fear. They slipped into the underbrush, making their way toward the clinic's rear entrance, the path serrated with anxiety and the weight of unspoken fears. Silence wrapped around them as they moved cautiously. Sam could hear their footsteps crunching softly on the gravel, intermittently drowned out by the distant hum of machinery. The air grew heavier as they neared the stark, white building that once seemed a beacon of hope. Now, under the light of day, it felt more like a fortress. As they reached the back of the clinic, Lucas signaled for everyone to pause. With a quick motion, he pointed toward a lone figure walking down a corridor inside, clipboard in hand. A man in a white coat, the very embodiment of the authority that once inspired trust. Sam's gut twisted, something about that man radiated menace. "Let us get closer," Sam whispered, and they inched forward, hearts pounding in tandem. They pressed their backs against the cool, sterile wall, trying to blend into the shadows. The man soon disappeared around a corner, leaving behind a door slightly ajar. "Is anyone else nervous?" Clara mouthed, her expression a mix of dread and resolve. Sam met her gaze, a flicker of fear flashing between them. "I get it," he replied softly. "But we're here for a reason. For Anna, for the others." Gathering every ounce of courage, he motioned for them to enter the clinic. They slipped through the door silently, the smell of antiseptic stinging their nostrils as they crossed the threshold. The interior was bright, too bright. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows in every corner, the tension built within them, quiet and palpable. Each step felt like a countdown, an impending discovery ripe with dread. They moved deeper into the clinic, hearts racing, eyes wide and ears pricked for any sound. This was where secrets lived, and they were about to dig through them. As they rounded a corner, Sam's breath caught in his throat. There was a sound, something more than buzzing machines or voices. A soft whimper reached his ears, a sound so out of place amid the sterile ambience. "Did you hear that?" he asked urgently, eyes darting among his companions. Clara nodded, fear gripping her features. "We need to find out what that is," she whispered, but as they turned toward the source, the weight of reality pressed in around them. Something was waiting for them in that clinic, a truth that could shatter everything they believed. What lay ahead felt darker than anything they had imagined. Would they be ready to face it? Or would they discover something more terrifying than they could ever prepare for? As they walked toward the sound, a knot formed in Sam's stomach. His instinct screamed at him to retreat, yet an unseen force nudged him forward. The whimper echoed again, more desperate this time, and Clara took a step closer, her eyes wide with curious horror. "Sam," she whispered, "do you think someone needs help?" The question hung in the air, heavy with all that it implied. Was it help they would find, or something far more unsettling? Before he could respond, Lucas turned sharply toward the sound, his posture tense and ready. "We need to hurry," he urged, edging closer to the door they had heard the noise from. "Just stay alert." He reached the door and paused, glancing back at the others. Sam could see the trepidation on Clara's face, but there was also a spark of determination. They shared a moment of silent understanding. Whatever lay behind that door was going to test them all. Without another word, Lucas pushed the door open. It creaked ominously, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. The air felt different here, thick and suffocating, like it took courage just to breathe. As they stepped inside, the noise intensified. It wasn't just a whimper now, it was a soft, pained sob. Sam's heart raced as he searched the room. His gaze landed on a small form curled up in the corner. A child. The sight brought him to his knees. There, amidst the sterile equipment and cold, unfeeling walls, was a young girl, no more than 8 years old, her face stained with tears. "Help," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "What happened?" Sam asked, his voice breaking ever so slightly. He felt the weight of her fear, a fear that seemed to seep into his very bones. The girl lifted her tear-streaked face, and in that moment, everything changed for Sam. There was something profoundly wrong here, something that could alter the fate of everyone involved. "They took me from my family," she managed, her small body trembling. "I don't want to be here. I just want to go home." Sam exchanged another glance with Clara and Lucas, who were equally stricken. The reality was more terrifying than they had feared. This wasn't just about exposing a clinic or seeking the truth. This was about saving a child, a life ripped from innocence. Okay, we're going to get you out of here," he said firmly, though his heart pounded with uncertainty. "But how?" Clara whispered, glancing anxiously at the door they had just entered through, now suddenly feeling like a wall of fear and potential danger. "We need to gather evidence," Lucas interjected, his voice tense but steady. "We can't leave without proof. It might not just be her." Every part of Sam wanted to rush the terrified child to safety, but Lucas was right. They needed more proof, something that could blow this thing wide open. That thought lingered in the air, heavy and tantalizing. Reality pressed in around him, reminding Sam of the stakes. Rescue a child, expose a nightmare. Could they accomplish both? Suddenly, the sobs stopped. The girl turned her dark eyes towards a flickering shadow moving outside the door. Panic welled in Sam's chest as he realized they weren't alone. "Hide!" Lucas hissed, and they quickly ducked behind medical cabinets and equipment, hearts racing as they held their breath. Footsteps grew closer, the sound sharp and purposeful. In that instant, everything stood still. Would their decision to investigate lead to salvation or doom? Just then, the doors swung wide, and a figure entered, silhouetted against the harsh light outside. Sam's gut dropped. The nightmare was far from over, but this revelation might just change everything. As the figure stepped into the room, Sam's grip tightened on the edge of the cabinet. Time felt suspended as he awaited the face of the one who held secrets in their hands. Would they dare to confront the truth before it was too late? The figure stepped fully into the room, and Sam's breath caught in his throat. It was a man in a lab coat, but he didn't look like a typical doctor. There was something cold and calculating about the way he moved, a glint of authority in his eyes that made Sam's skin crawl. "Where are you?" The man called, his voice deep and resonant, echoing eerily off the sterile walls. "I know someone else in here." Sam's heart pounded louder, a drum signaling danger. He glanced quickly at Clara and Lucas, both of whom were frozen in place, eyes wide with fear. The girl, too frightened to speak, pressed herself further into the corner. "Stay quiet," Lucas whispered, barely moving his lips. His eyes never left the man, whose presence felt like a dark cloud looming over them. The scientist paced slowly, a predator searching for prey. Sam felt a sudden flash of anger. This man was responsible for the girl's tears, he was the one who tore her from her family. The helplessness of the situation bit at him like frost, but now wasn't the time to lash out. He needed to be smart, calculated. "Think," he urged himself as he peeked over the edge of the cabinet. He needed a plan. Suddenly, the doctor stopped. "I can hear you," he snapped. A quick shuffle of feet sent Sam's heart racing. Lucas barely managed to pull Clara and the girl back just as the madman whipped around, staring straight at them. Come out, wherever you are," he taunted, an unsettling smile creeping onto his lips. He moved toward the cabinet where Sam was crouched. Thinking fast, Sam grabbed a small metal tray lying nearby and tossed it toward the opposite wall. It clanged against the ground, the noise sharp and jarring in the heavy silence. "Over there!" The man shouted, running toward the sound. Sam didn't waste a second. "This way!" He whispered urgently to Clara and Lucas, gesturing for them to follow as he moved to the door at the far end of the room. He glanced back one last time at the terrified girl. "We'll be back for you." With adrenaline coursing through him, he and his friends bolted through the door, plunging into an adjacent hallway. Clara's tight grip on his arm spoke her fear, but it also felt like a lifeline. They needed each other now more than ever. They ran swiftly, the echo of the man's footsteps growing faint behind them. Sam turned a corner, heart pounding, trying to remember the layout of the building they had crept through. Each door they passed could lead to danger or clues, but they had to keep moving. "Where do we go?" Clara gasped, struggling to catch her breath. "Find a way to lock it." "We can't let him catch us," Lucas replied, scanning the hallway ahead. They turned into another small room, and Sam closed the door behind them, leaning against it and panting heavily. His mind raced, calculations flashing through his head like an old film reel. What were they up against? What was happening behind those walls? "Sam," Clara said, looking into his eyes. "We have to help her. But we can't just rush in blindly." He nodded, feeling the weight of her words. She was right. This couldn't just be about their own fear. There was a girl depending on them. "We'll figure this out, together," he promised. His resolve hardened. They needed a strategy, a plan to expose the horrors hidden in plain sight. The stakes were higher than they had imagined, but just then, a low rumble echoed through the air, a distant alarm, accompanied by a tremor in the floor beneath them. "What is that?" Lucas whispered, brow furrowing. Sam's heart sank. "Whatever it is, it can't be good. We have to act fast before it's too late." They pressed against their decision to gather their courage. Would they make it in time to save the girl? Or would the shadows consume them all? The blaring alarm shrieked loudly in their ears, amplifying the panic coursing through Sam. He felt his heart race even faster. The noise was deafening, a relentless reminder that time was slipping through their fingers like sand. Did he trigger that? Clara asked, her voice trembling slightly. What does it mean? I don't know, Lucas replied, his frown deepening as he peered through a small window in the door. But I think we need to find that girl, like, right now. The urgency in his tone struck a chord within Sam. He sensed that if they didn't act quickly, they might never have the chance. Pushing back against the tide of fear, he took a deep breath. We need to find out what is happening. The alarm could be a distraction, a way to scare us. Clara's fingers knitted together nervously. Or it could mean he's already alerted others. She glanced back toward the door, her expression reflecting her mounting dread. Sam racked his brain, summoning any fragments of memory that might provide a way forward. In school, they learned about old factories and how they were laid out, but nothing could prepare him for this twisted labyrinth they now found themselves in. Okay, he said, trying to sound confident. There should be an emergency exit down the hall. It might get us out of here, or at least give us a chance to regroup. With newfound determination, they quickly made their way out of the small room, retracing their steps with their hearts pounding loudly in their chests. The alarm continued to wail, and the tremors underfoot became more pronounced, as if echoing the urgency and chaos of their mission. Sam, wait! Clara hissed suddenly. He turned around, and she pointed toward a door slightly ajar. What's in there? They paused, glancing nervously at the ominous opening. Fear gripped their hearts, but curiosity pulled them closer. Without a word, they approached it, their footsteps muted by the heavy tension in the air. Pushing the door wide, they stepped inside and were met with a stark, clinical room that looked like a cross between a high-tech office and a laboratory. Monitors flickered with feeds of different rooms in the building, revealing bleak hallways and empty laboratories. But one screen stood out, a live feed of the terrified girl, still trapped and alone. Oh my God, Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The room began to spin as Sam's heart sank further. We have to get her out, he murmured, but before they could formulate a plan, a low voice echoed from behind them, sending chills running down their spines. I see you found my little laboratory. How delightful. They turned to see the man in the lab coat standing there, his expression one of twisted glee. Sam felt his stomach drop. An icy wave of terror washed over him. Did you think you could just wander around here unnoticed? He continued, stepping closer, eyes gleaming with malice. You really are foolish kids. They exchanged frantic glances. The walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating them with dread. We need to go. Lucas urged, backing towards the door they had come through. The scientist laughed, a sound void of warmth. Oh, but I wouldn't recommend that. Not when there's so much to explore. Get back. Sam shouted, adrenaline surging through him. He had to protect his friends. Suddenly, Clara grabbed his arm tightly. I know what we should do, she whispered urgently, her eyes sparkling with clarity despite the fear. If we can make it to the main console, we can release the locks and free her. But what if Lucas started, but Sam cut him off. No. We have to trust her. It's our only chance. As they moved toward the door, the scientist lunged forward, blocking their path. And where do you think you're going? The moment hung thick with tension, each heartbeat echoing within the silence of the room. Sam squeezed Clara's hand, determination flaring within him. This was no longer just about survival. It was about hope for the girl, hope for their future. With a deep breath, Sam steeled himself. They would either go down fighting or find a way to save her. Together, and in that defining moment, the choice felt clear. But as they prepared their next moves, the scientist smirked, "You're playing a dangerous game, kids. Let us see how it ends." Little did they know, this was only the beginning of something much larger and far more deadly. Would they manage to save the girl, or would they find themselves ensnared in a web they couldn't escape? The bright light of dawn illuminated the clinic, exposing its sterile facade but shadowing the terror within. Heart pounding, Sam led Clara and Lucas through the chaos of their surroundings. Every creak of the floor and each faint echo of the alarm rose and fell, blending dread with urgency. They were on the edge of discovery, a moment that could either redeem them or unleash new horrors. With resolve stitched into their hearts, they turned to confront the man in the lab coat. "Step aside," Sam demanded, adrenaline surging through him. The scientist chuckled darkly, yet his gaze flickered with uncertainty. For a brief second, Sam saw vulnerability, perhaps a hint of fear. With determination interwoven with desperation, Sam felt the shift. They held the power of truth. "You can't keep her here," he pressed, voice steady despite the cascade of emotions within. "We know what you're doing." The man's smile faltered. "You're not equipped to understand what's truly at stake here. But it seems you wish to play hero." "Don't underestimate us," Clara piped in, stepping forward. "We're going to expose you." The scientist's demeanor hardened. "Foolish kids," he growled, stepping forward as if to strike fear into their hearts. "We won't be afraid," Lucas shouted, the fierceness in his voice igniting a fire within them all. In that moment, they realized the stakes went beyond just themselves. It was about the little girl and countless others who might be trapped and silenced. The attention shifted as a loud beeping echoed from the console attached to the wall. Clara's eyes met Sam's, and without a word, he nodded. They surged forward, pushing against the scientist's threatening posture and scrambling toward the console. Time felt like a river rushing forward, their swift minds washing away doubts. "Hurry!" Clara urged, racing her fingers over the buttons, her heart sinking with the frantic beeping. "Releasing lockdown in 10 seconds. The screen blared, and the tension accelerated, slicing through their fear like a knife. As they counted down together, something shifted in the atmosphere, hope colliding with terror. The scientist lunged at them, but with a swift motion, Lucas blocked him. "You're not going to hurt us, and you definitely won't hurt that girl. Let her go," Sam shouted, his voice raw with emotion. A flicker of realization passed through the scientist's eyes, and in that crucial moment, the alarms halted, replaced by silence. The lockdown released with a sudden blissful clang, the doors shifting and opening with a thunderous rush. "Go!" Sam shouted, and they darted toward the room where the girl waited, their hearts soaring with the promise of freedom. They reached her just in time, the overwhelmed child looking at them through tears of astonishment. "Are you here to rescue me?" she whispered, hope blossoming in her innocent voice. "Yes, we're here," Sam promised, kneeling before her. "We're going to get you out of here." Tears streamed down her cheeks, and for the first time, they felt the weight of what they were fighting for. This wasn't just about exposing a sinister plot, it was about reclaiming innocence. Footsteps thundered from behind. The scientist had regained his composure, fury radiating from him. "You think you can escape?" he seethed. "We won't let you hurt anyone else," Clara shouted, fear and anger fueling her courage. Still hoisting the girl into his arms, Sam motioned for Lucas to lead the way. "This way. We're getting out of here." As they navigated the hallways, desperate voices echoed behind them, the threat of the scientist hanging in the air like a storm. But their footsteps quickened, determination propelling them forward. With the exit in sight, hope surged like a phoenix from the ashes, filling their lungs with promise and tenacity. Bursting through the exit, fresh air enveloped them as the sun kissed their skin. Sam's heart raced, they had made it. But as they turned to look back, dread crept in. Was the nightmare truly over? Rushing toward the forest, they pressed deeper, away from the clinic and into safety. The girl shivered in Sam's arms, but her grip tightened around his neck, solidifying their bond. As they reached the sanctuary of trees, Clara swung around. "We need to call the authorities," she exclaimed, her voice laced with urgency. "This has to be reported." Lucas glanced at Sam, who, still quite shaken, realized the battle was indeed just beginning. "We will," he replied, words steadier now. "But first, we need to get her home." The girl blinked at them, a smile breaking through her tears. Are you really my heroes? Sam knelt down, meeting her gaze with a fierce resolve. You are so much stronger than you know. Your courage is what makes us heroes. That moment crystallized everything they had fought for: hope, courage, and the unwavering spirit of a community coming together in the face of darkness. It was about more than exposing a clinic, it was about reclaiming lives and building bridges where there were walls. As the breeze rustled the leaves overhead, relief washed over Sam. He smiled, a radiant light blooming in his chest. They had fought for each other, for love, and now they were free. But he knew this would inspire change, a spark within their small town to challenge injustice and bring people together. There was work ahead, a future waiting to be forged. And together, they would build it. This was not just an ending, but a new beginning. As they ventured forward into the woods, laughter replaced their fears, echoing warmly in the morning air. Together, they emerged from shadows into a life brimming with promise, and with that, as life began anew, he felt infused with hope, the kind that rises from the ashes of despair. Now, the fight ahead felt brighter, buzzing with anticipation and unwavering love from a community that would no longer cower in silence. They had found their voices, and as you reflect on this story, remember, you need to subscribe now to witness the next heartwarming transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions below to share this incredible journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how love can conquer all obstacles. Your support means the world in spreading these uplifting stories.